Thank you for that, Bill. Good morning again, everyone. My message today is entitled, See Me, Feel Me, Touch Me. Our scripture reading is from Isaiah 42, verse 4, Psalm 72, verses 12 and 14. He shall not fail nor be discouraged till he have set judgment in the earth. He shall deliver the needy when he crieth, the poor and him that hath no helper. He shall redeem their soul from deceit and violence, and precious shall their blood be in his sight. So it is written in the Holy Bible. May we be blessed to find meaning and understanding in these words. See me. As I mentioned previously, for my next few messages, I will be lifting up voices of people of African descent as recommended by the United Church of Christ in response to the UN's designation of the years 2014 to 2024 as the International Decade for People of African Descent. Today's voice is Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Paul Coates is an American author and journalist. Coates gained a wide readership during his time as national correspondent at The Atlantic, where he wrote about cultural, social, and political issues, particularly regarding African Americans and white supremacy. He has worked for the Village Voice, Washington City Paper, and Time. In addition to many other writings, Coates has written a Black Panther series and a Captain America series for Marvel Comics. Hear these words from his 2019 novel, The Water Dancer. They knew our names and they knew our parents, but they did not know us because not knowing was essential to their power. To sell a child right from under his mother, you must know that mother only in the thinnest way possible. To strip a man down, condemn him to be beaten, flayed alive, then anointed with salt water, you cannot feel him the way you feel your own. You cannot see yourself in him, lest your hand be stayed. And your hand must never be stayed, because the moment it is, the tasked, that is the slave, will see that you see them, and thus see yourself. In that moment of profound understanding, you are all done, because you cannot rule as is needed. Ta-Nehisi Coates. Now, let's see if you recognize the following story. The scenes of this story lie among a race hitherto ignored by the associations of polite and refined society, an exotic race whose ancestors, born beneath a tropic sun, brought with them and perpetuated to their descendants a character so essentially unlike the hard and dominant Anglo-Saxon race as for many years to have won from it only misunderstanding and contempt. But another and better day is dawning. Every influence of literature, of poetry, of art in our times is becoming more and more in unison with the great master chord of Christianity, goodwill to man. The hand of benevolence is everywhere stretched out, searching into abuses, righting wrongs, alleviating distresses, and bringing to the knowledge and sympathies of the world the lowly, the oppressed, and the forgotten. In this general movement, unhappy Africa at last is remembered. Africa, who began the race of civilization and human progress in the dim gray dawn of early time, but who, for centuries, has lain bound and bleeding at the foot of civilized and Christianized humanity, imploring compassion in vain. But the heart of the dominant race, who have been her conquerors, her hard masters, has at length been turned towards her in mercy, and it has been seen how far nobler it is in nations to protect the feeble than to oppress them. Thanks be to God, the world has at last outlived the slave trade. Now, raise your hand at any time if you recognize or think you know this story. The object of these sketches is to awaken sympathy and feeling for the African race as they exist among us, to show their wrongs and sorrows under a system so necessarily cruel and unjust as to defeat and do away the good effects of all that can be attempted for them by their best friends under it. In doing this, the author can sincerely disclaim any invidious feeling towards those individuals who, often without any fault of their own, are involved in the trials and embarrassments of the legal relations of slavery. Experience has shown her that some of the noblest of minds and hearts are often thus involved, and no one knows better than they do that what may be gathered of the evils of slavery from sketches like these is not the half that can be told of the unspeakable whole. In the northern states, these representations may perhaps be thought caricatures. In the southern states are witnesses who know their fidelity. What personal knowledge the author has had of the truth of incidents such as here are related will appear in its time. It is a comfort to hope, as so many of the world's sorrows and wrongs have, from age to age, been lived down, so a time shall come when sketches similar to these shall be valuable only as memorials of what has long ceased to be. When an enlightened and Christianized community shall have, on the shores of Africa, laws, language, and literature drawn from among us, may the scenes of the house of bondage be to them like the remembrance of Egypt to the Israelite, a motive of thankfulness to him who hath redeemed them. For while politicians contend, and men are swerved this way and that by conflicting tides of interest and passion, the great cause of human liberty is in the hands of God, of whom it is said, he shall not fail nor be discouraged till he have set judgment in the earth. He shall deliver the needy when he crieth, the poor and him that hath no helper. He shall redeem their soul from deceit and violence, and precious shall be their blood in his sight. Now, I can't see everybody on the screen, but I'm just wondering if anybody knows that story or where that story is from before I divulge it. Okay. That story happens to have been a part of the #1 selling novel of the 19th century, second selling only to the Bible, and it is Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. So I just shared with you the preface to that novel. So incidentally and coincidentally, while working on this message, I discovered that in 2015, Ta-Nehisi Coates won the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center Prize for writing to advance social justice for his book, The Case for Reparations. So anyway, another little side note was that many people said that Harriet Beecher Stowe's advocacy against slavery may have added fuel to the advent of the Civil War. And upon meeting her, Abraham Lincoln allegedly remarked, "So this is a little lady who started this great war." Anyway, now it's time to feel me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to the love I see and feel in each of you. In her hopefulness, 170 years ago, Harriet Beecher Stowe declared, "Thanks be to God, the world has at last outlived the slave trade." Well, the world may have outlived the slave trade, but in this country, the mind and the heart of the slaver is ubiquitous, ever present, and very much evident in the systemic racism permeating virtually all sectors of our society that has, in my opinion, stunted the moral growth of our country. Now, some people argue that we've made a lot of progress since the Emancipation Proclamation, and that change takes time, which it can and which it does. But I would argue that those who are living comfortably don't have a lot of incentive to disturb their relative peace to look at the wounds that they have, let's say, inherited. I can empathize with one's aversion to pain, but I can also empathize with those who have endured almost unimaginable physical and psychic pain for centuries because of the color of their skin. That is me. Patience didn't seem to be the prudent thing to do when Native Americans were trampled, killed, and expatriated, and when Black Africans were stolen, and shackled, and you know the rest. Patience is what is needed to make a flower grow, but patience, to me, is not what is needed to end suffering and unfairness. Feel me. What is needed is an awakening, a moral awakening. Feel me. What is needed is faith that despite our fears, all will be well. Feel me. What is needed is for Christians to be the Christ. Feel me. What is needed is namaste. They knew our names and they knew our parents, but they did not know us because not knowing was essential to their power. To sell a child right from under his mother, you must know that mother only in the thinnest way possible. To strip a man down, condemn him to be beaten, flayed alive, then anointed with salt water, you cannot feel him the way you feel your own. You cannot see yourself in him, lest your hand be stayed. And your hand must never be stayed, because in that moment, it is the task. The task will see that you see them, and thus see yourself. In that moment of profound understanding, you are all done, because you cannot rule as is needed. Now, this message is so difficult for me because it is one I don't want to give, and one I wish I didn't feel compelled to give. But in this case, love won't let me wait. Love, or God, if you will, won't let me sit back and be patient or quiet while on this planet that was willed to all of us, there's so much suffering and so much that is unfair for no good reason. Often you've heard me say, the whole world belongs to everyone. But more importantly, we belong to everyone. This earthly experience is a joint venture. From all the crap we contend with to the elusive happiness we all pursue. We can't do any of this without each other. It is time, and I mean now, that we remove the blinders, take our heads out of the sand, close our eyes, feel the glorious, ever-nurturing sun shining on us, and remember what we are. Not who we are, remember what we are. So, touch me. Last week, the Buddhist monk and teacher Thich Nhat Hanh passed away. His book, Peace is Every Step, had a major impact on me and how I navigate my daily life. For me, his notion that peace is every step means that if you are a person of peace, everywhere you go, everywhere you step is the valley of peace. If you are imbued with the peace of the universe, and that is your real intention, then not only is peace every step, love is every step, compassion is every step, goodwill is every step, forgiveness is every step. Feel Thich Nhat Hanh as he reminds us of the following. At this very moment, the earth is above you, below you, all around you, and even inside you. The earth is everywhere. You may be used to thinking of the earth as only the ground beneath your feet, but the water, the sea, the sky, and everything around us comes from the earth. Everything outside us and everything inside us comes from the earth. We often forget that the planet we are living on has given us all the elements that make up our bodies. The water in our flesh, our bones, and all the microscopic cells inside our bodies all come from the earth and are part of the earth. The earth is not just the environment we live in. We are the earth, and we are always carrying her within us. Realizing this, we can see that the earth is truly alive. We are a living, breathing manifestation of this beautiful and generous planet. Knowing this, we can begin to transform our relationship to the earth. We can begin to walk differently and care for her differently. We will fall completely in love with the earth. When we are in love with someone or something, there is no separation between ourselves and the person or thing we love. We do whatever we can for them, and this brings us great joy and nourishment. That is the relationship each of us can have with the earth. That is the relationship each of us must have with the earth if the earth is to survive, and if we are to survive as well. If we think about the earth as just the environment around us, we experience ourselves and the earth as separate entities. We may see the planet only in terms of what it can do for us. We need to recognize that the planet and the people on it are ultimately one and the same. A lot of our fear, hatred, anger, and feelings of separation and alienation come from the idea that we are separate from the planet. We see ourselves as the center of the universe and are concerned primarily with our own personal survival. If we care about the health and well-being of the planet, we do so for our own sake. We want the air to be clean enough for us to breathe. We want the water to be clear enough so that we have something to drink. But we need to do more than use recycled products or donate money to environmental groups. We have to change our whole relationship with the earth. Thich Nhat Hanh. We have to change our whole relationship with the earth. And I would add, we have to change our whole relationship with each other. How do we do that, you ask? Remember this: with faith in action, he shall redeem their soul from deceit and violence, and precious shall be their blood in his sight. He shall deliver the needy when he crieth, the poor and him that hath no helper. He shall not fail nor be discouraged till he have set judgment in the earth. Put faith into action. Touch the earth. Touch me. Touch yourself. Then maybe you will love me. Namaste.